What's up, meta nerds? Today's video is going to be all about the HMP Droid Gunship. This guy has a bunch of different names. HMP stands for Heavy Missile Platform, but it's also known as simply the Droid Gunship or Separatist Gunship, or my favorite, the HMP Predator. This awesome droid was used by the Confederacy of Independent Systems, or CIS, relatively late in the Clone Wars, and was actually an updated version of this design, a mechanized assault flyer. Both the gunship and the mechanized assault flyer were designed by Hall Engineering. Those were the creepy religious bugs that found religious ecstasy in building high-quality ships, the ones that we talked about during the Vulture Droid video. But as weird as that species is, they definitely know what they're doing when it comes to making awesome crafts, which is an important distinction to point out. The droid gunship is not a starfighter like its Vulture Droid cousin. Instead, it's actually classified as an airspeeder. Some basic stats on the gunship were that it was 12 to 18 meters long, 11 meters wide, and 3 meters tall, and its maximum speed was up to 14,000 kilometers per hour. All that while still having good shielding and a thick hull. We have very detailed pricing on this through Legends material, and a brand new droid gunship is going to cost you 60,000 credits, while a used one only runs about 30,000. Pretty good deal. To put that in perspective, the B1 was said to cost anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 credits max. But what makes the droid gunship so badass is its armament. This thing is loaded to the teeth with firepower, and definitely struck fear into its enemies. On each side of the gunship's nose were large spherical gun turrets, each having twin medium laser cannons, and had their own separate capacitors for energy. And each turret had its own targeting sensor and scanner. Why it's important that these targeting systems are in each turret was that it allowed the droid gunship to focus on different targets at the same time. For enemies directly in front of it, it also had a forward-facing medium cannon as well. Above these turrets were two large photoreceptor eyes, in addition to long-range sensors and antenna, as well as the hardware and software, basically the droid's brain. This area also housed the deflector shield generator, and we get some extremely cool detail in the fact that the fuel tanks were along the sides of the nose here, but they had to be exposed because this droid used radioactive fuel. If not exposed, these radioactive particles would mess with all the electronics inside the droid. This fuel traveled to the rear of the ship into the gunship's most recognizable feature, the large disc. Inside of this disc were power cells, a support frame, a repulsor lift generator, and a projector which calculated all of the anti-gravitational lift generated from this disc. With this disc area taking care of the anti-gravitational aspects of the ship, the grooves along the outside of the disc housed ion thrusters, which allowed the ship to accelerate, decelerate, as well as change altitude. These ion thrusters gave it the maneuverability on the battlefield, but it's the repulsor lift technology which allowed it to be a stable shooting platform, increasing the effectiveness of its targeting computers and armament. I've already talked about its basic armament, but because the wings had a modular design, it could be easily upgraded. It could carry up to 14 missiles. These could range from torpedoes, electromagnetic pulse missiles, or concussion bombs. And if needed, it could use deployment racks like the B1s had, but these guys carried up to 12 SBD Super Battle Droids or BX Series Droid Commandos. That being said, BX Droid Commandos were known to YOLO it and just surf on top of the droid gunship if needed. It's said that the HMP Droid Gunship was made as a reaction to the success of the LAAT, the Republic's often used low-altitude assault transport. A strategy used by the CIS was to make dictators and small warlords on different planets help produce more of these gunships by using their own planet's resources, while allowing these leaders to keep a small percentage of these ships to use in their own armies and protect against their subjects and rivals. The first time we get to see these droids in action is around 20 BBY, when Super Tactical Droid General Kalani deployed 4 of these against the rebels on Onderon. Right when he deploys them, we see another really cool factor to these droids. It's important to remember there's no beings inside of them. These are droids, just like a B1 or just like a droideca, and I think it's really cool that they have vocabulators. The droid gunship can talk, and it actually says to Kalani in its really deep robotic voice, "By your command," before it takes off to slaughter some rebels. And slaughter it does. In these episodes, we get to see how effective its ray shielding was, as none of the standard weapons used by the rebels would even hurt it at all. We also see just how maneuverable and deadly it is on the battlefield, making quick work of anything in its way. It's not until the young Saw Gerrera uses a rocket launcher provided by Hondo. These rockets could slip past the ray shielding and were able to take down the mighty droid gunship with a single blow. It's funny how the droid gunship ends up being a catalyst for a lot of events that will bring down the Empire later. In this one battle, it really does change the course of Star Wars history. Saw Gerrera's sister was showing to be a very strong leader, and we can wonder what she would have become if it wasn't for this droid. Likewise, it's because of her death that Saw Gerrera became such a strong militant leader, making him a passionate opponent to the Empire and being crucial to the events of Rogue One, and his terrorist style of attack was both looked down upon by the Rebel Alliance, and even after the Empire falls, there are people who are sympathetic to it simply because the Rebel Alliance, which is now the New Republic, once was comprised of people like Saw Gerrera, whom everyone agrees was fueled by the painful memories of the loss of his sister to the HMP Droid Gunship. These droids were seen several times after the Battle of Onderon, on Ringo Vinda, Kashyyyk, and many other planets. Even after the official deactivation of all the droids, there were still some used by the Geonosian Gizardelso's rebellion against the Empire. But that didn't last very long after Vader and the 501st shut it down. Some cool behind-the-scenes facts were that the design for the droid gunship was actually based off an early concept art for the Republic gunship. It's kind of funny that they made the lore mirror the real-world design process by having the CIS develop the droid gunship as a reaction to the LAAT. In the 2005 version of Battlefront 2, the HMP Droid Gunship also served as a transport unit, and was actually piloted by other droids. And originally we were going to be able to see these guys during the Battle of Coruscant in Episode 3, but it was later decided that they should be atmospheric craft, and we instead get to see them during the Battle of Kashyyyk. Well, that's it for the HMP Droid Gunship. Hope you learned something new. Let me know in the comments below if I forgot to mention any cool facts about this thing, and how you feel about the Droid Gunship. Be sure to like and subscribe because we got new videos like this coming out every single day. Be sure to put a comment if you want a suggestion for any future videos, and most important of all, remember, may the Force be with you, always.